Hi.
Hello, Stacey Redman.
We are tasked with talking a little bit about the upcoming food holidays and how it affects our eating disordered patients and their families. So wanting to give some tidbits for people on how to do that.
Navigate that,
Yeah.
if not with grace or ease, at least some comfort knowing how people are going to actually deal with it.
Right. So obviously Thanksgiving is a food holiday.
And probably the worst for eating disorder patients.
Right.
Why don't we talk about folks that have eating disorders themselves? Because I think they're obviously the epicenter of this.
Mm-hmm.
And if they struggle, families struggle unless there's some sort of plan. And I think just winging it and, I think approaching Thanksgiving or Christmas holidays without a plan does not make much sense.
Right.
If you want to navigate that successfully.
Yeah. So I guess we're talking about identified clients, identified eating disorder patients, right? So it's not like you're coming into a holiday and you're uncomfortable with food and you don't want anybody to know and nobody does know, and there's the navigating that. But if your family and you know that you have a diagnosed eating disorder, Thanksgiving is probably not the time to have a intervention.
Definitely not. It will not go well.
Right. And an exposure of food, it's probably looking at the path of least resistance for that holiday, and how can you as the patient have some boundaries around eating and not have it turn into a push me, pull you, you should fill your plate, you know what the doctor said, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Any of the you shoulds.
You should not.
You should not. So, yeah, absolutely. Usually, I think, one, educating people, if you're going to a family dinner, often everyone knows to a degree. I think the setting the boundary part that you're talking about, generally, I think, can be most easily approached if people that are struggling are able to tell their close supports what actually feels comfortable for them around discussion of the eating disorder. One of the really, I think, basic tips for patients and families alike are setting a boundary around talking about physical appearance.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So a lot of the times people come in and the first comment might be, "Oh my God, you look so great," or "Oh my gosh, you look so healthy." And some of those are well intended, right? But
not well received.
But not well received, because the perception of you look healthy to somebody struggling with an eating disorder is I look fat. And so all mention of body should kind of not be brought up.
I often, if I see someone that looks like they're doing well or their mood is up, I will say, "Wow, you're so bright today.
Yeah.
You have so much energy."
So stay away from the physical compliments or physical, "Oh my God, you look so skinny," or "You look so awful."
Or even "You physically look awesome." I would
Right. Yeah.
suggest not bringing up anything that has to do with physical appearance. And it's a lot harder than you might think.
So that's a good start. I think another potential planning would be for the patient and the close family, be it parents or a partner, to kind of discuss what the meal plan looks like. So if you have a meal plan because you're engaged in treatment and you're working with a dietitian and a doctor and a therapist, you kind of know what you're supposed to be eating or what you've agreed to eat, and then to make some planning around the foods that are going to be at the table. So you're going to have your exchanges, your protein, your fat, your carb, your vegetable, that this is what's going to be on my plate, and have some agreement with whoever's cooking or some support in the room, so that when your plate or the patient's plate is being plated, it's planned for. So it's not like a free-for-all and I've got to navigate the mashed potatoes and the gravy. It's I'm going to have, here are the things that I'm going to have that are being served for Thanksgiving, and have some support in the room to say, yep, this is what the meal plan looks like.
Generally, the way we have found that this works best is if you have an identified primary support person. So even if the patient with the eating disorder has multiple family members present, that you really pick one that is primary support and others that can offer moral support if it's needed, but to really have one person that you plan with. So if we know turkey, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, peas, whatever is being served, if you get kind of that information prior to the dinner and plan, so you know exactly what you're going to eat when you go, and to know that your support person can actually plate the food for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry about, is this too much or too little? Am I eating the right things? If their support person is present, they can say, this is exactly what you need. Your exchanges are all represented here, and I'm with you. And if need be, too, if you need an alternative setting in which to eat, meaning not around the table or not sitting around in the living room with your plate in your hand, to be able to plan that too. If you need to eat, you know, with just your support person in the other room,
Mm-hmm.
that's something you can front load and plan around too.
Right. I think it's really crucial to have that support person be your spokesperson too, that if things start to get out of control at the table where Aunt Susie is saying, you need to have another piece of pie, that, you know, your support person can say, thank you, Aunt Susie, we've got it covered. And then to distract and go on to the next conversation. Because it is such a food-oriented holiday where typically there's eating from the start of the day until the end of the day. We've got
A lot of greasing.
Right. But to build in some activities in there. So whether you're going to play games with the cousins, or you're going to go for a little walk, or you're going to watch, you know, some of the family members playing football in the backyard, that it's not just you sitting around a bunch of food all day long, but get engaged in other non-food related Thanksgiving activities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very wise. I think too, having an out is part of the plan, meaning especially if people are relatively new to treatment, I think being overwhelmed is something that occurs pretty frequently. So if it's the first Thanksgiving since treatment started, or the patient identified with the eating disorder hasn't eaten with a large group of people in a long time, that besides having support there for them, if you need to pull the ripcord and exit, that there's a plan for that, that there can be a sign, a physical sign that
Mm-hmm.
I'm overwhelmed and I need to go, but also to let whoever is hosting and all of the family members present know, if you see us leave, has nothing to do with, you know, our relationship, there's nothing wrong, this is something that we're dealing with and we just need to take an early out.
Yeah.
So, and then try it again later.
Right. Yeah. Good talk.
Good talk.